Well, friends, we've made it. 36 kilograms of live weight operates in class at 30 watts, with capacitors inside totaling 120,000 microfarads. That's twice as much as the VacuPhase E280. And the transformer power is 860 watts. Just don't fall off your chairs. All of this costs just over 300,000 rubles. Well, what do you think? Let's see, what kind of miracle is this? Ta-da! Let's figure out how this is possible, and whether it's a fake from the Chinese, like the supposed Swiss Dart Zeal copies on AliExpress, which allegedly play the same but cost much less. Watch the video until the end, yeah, and we'll figure everything out together. And don't forget, I do this professionally, hi-fi since 2012, so if you want to build a home theater or assemble a cool stereo system, contact me, write to me on Telegram via the link in the description, or on WhatsApp, and I'll select everything for you and make it in the best way. Delivery across all of Russia, even abroad. So feel free to reach out. Thank you. Glad to help. I have been familiar with the company ToneWinner for several years. To my ignorance, I didn't even assume that in the homeland of Mao, there is a developing cluster of hi-fi high-end equipment. On the other hand, why wouldn't it develop when the population in China is exactly 10 times larger than that of Mother Russia? They have everything: technology, opportunities, ambitions, culture, and even resources. Even Japan, in a direct comparison, looks pale, although they still have an aura of super technology, and products from the homeland of Musashi are supposedly eternal and the best. But that's not the case, friends, and in the same hi-fi and high-end world, in car, it's always the number 2 company, but never number 1. You can argue in the comments. Just consider ToneWinner has been operating for over 30 years, with its own production, its own development department, engineering department, design department, all in-house. Unlike many top European brands, they don't outsource their technology. The full production cycle is supported by their own capabilities. That commands respect, don't you agree? It's still not there. Add to this a decent portfolio of licenses and patents. The result is a company that can easily overlook many high-end manufacturers if it wishes and crush them with its financial resources. How intense. So, dear friends, when you tell me, yes, it's China, why are you offering me stereo or home theater components? ToneWinner, remember that this is a completely different country than it was in the 90s. As someone who has visited Beijing, Shenzhen, Hong Kong, and was deported from Guangzhou, Europe, at least Europe, is resting. And in some ways, even the USA and the Arab Emirates. But let's return to the AD2PRO Plus. Remove the ToneWinner label and honestly ask yourself, what is its price? 700 million rubles? But no, friends, 330,000, I believe, something like that. Good design, yes, it lacks one tone, but black and silver together look harmonious. Not a single element on the central part is made of plastic. Everything, including the volume knob, is metal, the buttons are rough, but it's clear that this is care and an intention for it to work. This kind of equipment, for a long time, fundamental legs, yes, they are still like those of top Japanese models, but it's not a fact that these will be worse at reducing vibration. Huge fins. And not just that, but with such serrations that are significantly better at dissipating heat, my friends. And soon I will show you how it looks when it heats up. The thermal map will be on your screen. How does this coveted glass heat up? Very hot. Yes, yeah, it's practically 44 degrees. But I'm sure it will heat up even more if it stands for at least a couple of hours. Very thick front panel. In terms of metalwork, as you can see, everything is perfect. If you want to find fault, there's simply nothing to criticize. Absolutely nothing. Everything is very good. By the way, this is the cover that we will now remove to see what's inside. It is 2-component. Well, such thickness of the front panel, well, it's nonsense. Here, really. And let's see what it has. Practically holy of holies. In the rear part, everything is very serious, friends. 4 terminals for each speaker, where you can easily connect by wiring. We have balanced inputs. Unfortunately, only 1 pair. We have 2 unbalanced connections. There is a phono stage with switching for MM and MC cartridges. such serious functionality for a top-tier integrated amplifier. And also we have USB and accordingly what? Coax? There is. Coax. Excellent. And a subwoofer output, which is absolutely useless for me because devices of this class should only play in stereo without any additional speaker systems. Note that the labels are in Chinese, which indicates that the product is primarily made for their own market. They are absolutely, let's say, indifferent to other markets. Yes, there are inscriptions in English, but still the main message is that this is, so to speak, a serious item for the domestic market, well, which is always a plus. Yes, by the way, I almost forgot, there are 2 optical inputs, so no problem. Connect your TV. What am I missing here? It's, of course, HDMI. If it were here, it's unclear why it wasn't included, because in the AD99, AD86 has HDMI, but in this top model, it doesn't. On the other hand, you can always get an inexpensive set-top box with HDMI, connect it via RCA, and you'll be happy. Regarding the terminals, they are high quality, they are good. Yes, I wouldn't say it's some kind of super mega fine, but it's definitely not cheap, my friends. So overall, everything in this device is made very, very well. If it had 2 power inputs, like for example the top Griffons, then it would be absolutely amazing. But no, so far, Chinese manufacturers haven't thought of this. At least I haven't seen any equipment. If you've come across something, again, let me know. I will always be grateful to you for a normal, productive dialogue. I almost forgot. Let's take a look at its screen, friends, because it deserves special attention. Even in Ikufas, Kufasias, Griffons, and so on, you know that there's practically nothing like it. Although, no, I'm lying, Griffons do have it, but how much do they cost? Yes. Turning it on. Notice that the firmware version is displayed. Yes, the screen is simple, without frills, but nevertheless, it's there. Although, it does provide certain hints. That's why in this regard, I like the old format, Bryson, where there was nothing like that. You could just switch, and that's it. Adjustment button, source selection, class operation selection. The most coveted button. Klasni IB, Klassen eine, auto, class. Auto, as I understand it, automatically switches to low rev operation in class. When you increase the volume, it switches to AB. Class AB, it always plays in AB and consumes less energy. And of course, Class A, in which I recommend you listen to this device. In principle, it was created solely for this purpose. Turn it on. In this class at low revs, up to 30 watts, I think, similar to the E650. They are generally similar in size. It will play for you. Screwdriver. And let's start opening it up. You know what I immediately like about this device, unlike... How many times have I already said about it? Because recently, I also disassembled the E280. And there, to get to the transformer, it required unscrewing more than a dozen screws, removing the side panels, and only after that was I able to reach the top cover. Here, everything is very simple. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a screw, right, friends? 6 screws, and we will remove it. Moreover, we have 2 covers here. And they are 2 different ones, friends. And they are 2 dissimilar ones. And they are 2 complex ones. More complex than, for example, in those devices that usually cost millions of rubles. Notice how they are made. Like this. The first cover is removed. Very high quality. Look, it is glued here. Very cool, once again. Perfect. Do you see the gaps? On the left, on the right. No, well, a little more on the left. You can tell it was glued by hand. Well, a drop by itself. Good quality. And here's the cover. And behind it is almost hidden. Kilowatt unit, friends. A huge transformer. And capacitors. As far as I remember, 1's 20, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Each one is 10,000. in total on 20,000 microfarads. This is exactly twice as much as the E280, which costs twice as much, friends, on average in the market. On the stiffening ribs, as far as I remember, what do we have here? Do you know, these, friends, are transistors. And as far as I remember, they are Japanese. Is Toshiba? Toshiba. Most likely Toshiba. There are here in the arm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, well, at least 6 visible pieces. Separated circuits. Pure high-end approach. The transformer is placed in a compartment that suppresses all these interferences from it. The capacitors are also in their own compartment. And the compartment with connectors is also isolated, friends. Everything is in its place. Everything is glued. Everything is good. Pay attention to the soldering. How the Chinese learned to solder. In fact, they never forgot how, because you remember that the Chinese, for example, invented gunpowder. Yes, they actually invented a lot of things. They had some crazy siege machines, which, by the way, the Mongols adopted and then terrorized our Rus. Those Mongols. By the way, do you remember about the sumo wrestlers? Sumai Tahakuko was great. That's also, by the way, representatives of the Mongolian race. It wasn't the Japanese who became the greatest sumo wrestlers. So maybe it's not the Japanese who make the best amplifiers. It's the Chinese, Germans, English, Americans, Canadians who do. Write in the comments, your opinion is important to me. In general, what I want to say. When you see such production, when you see such quality, when you see such internals, friends, you understand that this is serious. And I repeat, you could put a label from any other high-end brand, for example, Mark Levinson, which again doesn't play well at all in the latest versions if I'm speaking in terms of price-quality ratio. No, absolutely not, meaning there's no point in buying it at all, and you should choose ToneWinner. Without a doubt, of course, ToneWinner. KEF Q150. How difficult and at the same time easy it was for these little ones. I think they have never played like this before. Ultra-low bass attacked delicacy. Even at minimal volume, the bass was transmitted very clearly. To be honest, I just didn't recognize the sound of the 150. Yes, it was always good, but what was so convincing was the sound through ToneWinner. It's a revelation. When you connect entry-level acoustics to a serious device, you realize how well it can perform. The LS 50 meter here already felt the class of acoustics. Instruments fluttered in the air. Even more lows, even more separation, even more instruments, even more lively vocals. And of course, the overall picture was several orders of magnitude more perfect. But still, friends, you can hear that the acoustics do not match our hero. Pet Shop Boys, with their album from the 90s, sounded as if they had undergone a remastering. And all this through these little ones which were simply at their best. KEF R11 for almost $1 million. That's what all the AD2PRO Plus needs. On them, it fully unleashed. Rammstein's Side was listened to from the fourth to the last song in one breath. Complete control of the quartet of woofers. It felt like an iron Chinese cyborg grabbed the diffusers with its powerful hand and didn't let go at any level. Whether I listened quietly or turned up the volume high, everything was fine. But I still managed to achieve distortion at ultra-high levels. There was a noticeable lack of wattage in the class. It's in this mode that you should listen to all the songs on this device. Class B is essentially just for show. For example, if you're listening to something in the background, or you have guests over, or you've connected it to a TV, then yes, no problem with AB. Because it heats up less, consumes fewer resources, and it will last longer if it doesn't constantly heat up like that. But if you've seriously decided to listen to music, come home, grab a glass of wine, or a whiskey on the rocks, then only Class A, my friends, because in this class it can compete with the coolest devices. Yes, in some areas it will lose, in others it will win. In terms of bass, it is definitely one of the leaders. Yes, it's not a Bryston, but a Bryston costs 5 times more, friends, and the equivalent's even more. But it is definitely not 5 times worse. The cherry on top was the connection to the home B&W 802D4, which couldn't fully reveal themselves to the Chinese device. Still, this model, despite the relaxation in the fourth line, is not on par with the AD2PRO Plus. For it, you need monoblocks, at least 300 watts each, or at least 100 watts in Class A. I'm telling you honestly, I won't lie, so If you have such level acoustic systems, then of course you need to look for something more serious. But there, the price is 10 times higher. But no one assembles like that. Well, you can't buy speakers, for example, for 3 million and then use an amplifier for 300,000. Because you can't, well, you can in theory, but it would be wrong to use an amplifier for 5 million and speakers for 500,000. To avoid this, contact me and I will select a great stereo system or home theater for you, my friends. In summary, who is this amplifier for? It's simple. For someone who dreams. Oh, of Paco Face, Griffin, Mark Levinson, the same Brysel, but unfortunately cannot afford them. This is for people who know they need the highest sound quality but don't have millions to spend on it. This device is for people who understand that China taught Japan literacy and is in itself a much older and more developed civilization. In general, it's for educated people and those who understand that they absolutely need results. You know, results without any show-off, specifically a remarkably cool, affordable, top-notch device for minimal money, because there are simply no equivalents among top brands like Luxman, the same Acouphase, or anything else in this budget with such quality delivery, and how it will play, friends, in a few seconds.